Hello everyone and welcome to the Pilot Show, a show for and by people who don't always finish things. It is me, Captain Logan, or 'tis I, Captain Logan.
'Tis you.
I was an English major.
'Tis the captain.
And check it out, it's my son and co-host forever for this program, Jayson. Yes.
It's me.
Jayson, this is our 7th attempt at The Pilot Show, and what are some of the genres that we've covered so far?
We've covered sitcoms.
Yeah.
We've covered superhero.
Yeah. Kind of a couple of times.
Because
we did Animorphs and Gargoyles.
We've covered animated and live action.
That's true.
And I mean...
We've done comedies, we've done dramas.
Uh-huh.
We did a drama.
Yeah.
We did House, which was a kind of a drama comedy at the same time.
Yeah.
And we've got that today, but with the comedy kind of more at the forefront.
A lot higher, yeah.
Even than with House. And I think what we're doing today is going to be the quirkiest and kind of funniest thing that we've tackled, maybe.
Yeah.
Or at least funniest for a dramatic program. Obviously, Addams Family was hilarious.
Right. Yeah.
So what are we covering today, Jayson?
We're covering Pushing Daisies.
The pilot for Pushing Daisies.
Called
Pilot, spelled Pie, P-I-E, let.
Yeah.
Which is just brilliant.
Yeah, it's great.
It's fantastic. That just screams confidence from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, like, this is a show that's got no fear, no shame. It knows exactly what it is, and it does not care if it's your bag or not.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that I feel like if you could get it in front of enough eyes, would probably really win people over, almost no matter who they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly not, I don't know, the humor sensibility is... maybe not going to be for everybody, because it's a little cerebral, certainly, but it's so charming and touching and heartfelt. Like, I do feel like this is one of those things that could be pretty accessible, where there's something there for everybody in the right kind of way.
Yeah, I think the visual tone makes it very much, appealing, I think.
It's very storybook.
Yeah, it's very storybook.
I saw some of this show shortly after it came out and was just blown away by it. And it of course, was immediately appealing to me because of some of the folks involved, particularly Barry Sonnefeld, who directed the Men in Black movies and who directed the pilot for the Patrick Warburton Tick series. And this was a whopping 6 years after that. Mm-hmm. This comes out in 2007. That show was 2001. And Sonnenfeld has a bit of a history, just like Bryan Fuller, who created the show, of putting out short-lived programs. Yeah. Shows that really should have been on quite a bit longer and didn't quite find their audience. Mm-hmm. For various reasons. And I don't know if you're going to get into any of that with your background.
No. I actually...
I know you're usually just looking more into the beginnings of things, but do you know anything about like why the show gets canceled?
I know a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly.
What network did this air on?
So this was ABC.
I couldn't remember if it was ABC or NBC.
Yeah, it's ABC. Yeah. I don't know how they actually, how... I don't know actually if they canceled it or if it got a full...
No. It definitely got canceled. It was definitely premature, and everybody seemed kind of sad that it ended when it did. But comedic sensibilities are right in the same place as the Patrick Warburton Tick series, and I feel like it's kind of a perfect blend of that and Men in Black, as far as the comedy chops of it go, with maybe even a hint of Addams Family in it with the morbidity of it. And I say that because Sonnenfeld directed the Addams Family movie in the early 90s. Yeah.
I actually didn't. I
Did you not realize that when we watched it?
I could not realize that. Or I did not.
You could not realize that. Impossible.
It was impossible. I did not realize that it was.
So, why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of background about the pilot, and then we'll go ahead and watch it.
Okay.
I will say right out the gate, right up front, I think this is my favorite pilot that we've done so far.
Yeah.
And I already really liked this show. I never finished it because I was too depressed that it got canceled.
Yeah.
So this is one of those shows where it was so bittersweet that I felt weird about writing it out because, you know, I don't know if this ends on some kind of a cliffhanger or where, and eventually I'll finally watch the rest of it. And then I had several years where I just sort of lost track of it and forgot about it. But I watched the whole first season. It's been a long time, so I don't remember some of what happens in it and how that season ended, and what exactly happens with that relationship. But I'll finally write it out like I did with Austin with the Sarah Connor Chronicles. As sad as it was finishing that when that show was unfinished.
I did that show also get canceled?
It has that too. It got 2 seasons.
Okay, it got 2 seasons.
And ends on a really cool cliffhanger.
Oh.
And it's really sad.
It's
like ever since and a lot of people have this with Firefly, of course, but at least Firefly got something of a conclusion with Serenity. And you would have loved to have seen that continue, but it wrapped up a lot of threads, and Whedon was able to get that to like the end of the 3rd or 4th season. You know, where I think 3rd, where he wanted a lot of those story threads to go. But the show that made me feel like this and made it difficult to want to finish shows that don't get a proper ending was 4400. Slipmaker, and thanks for watching live if you're here right now on a Thursday afternoon. Slipmaker says they do manage to wrap it up, although a few side plot lines that are set up are kind of dropped. Well, that's good. I'm glad that they got enough notice that they were able to sort of put a bow on it. They got a final order of 3 episodes to give the main arcs proper conclusions. I didn't know that.
And those 3 episodes, I'm pretty sure, got aired, at least in America, like a lot later than the rest of the show.
Interesting.
But in Germany,
they came out on time?
They came out on time.
What? It's so weird when that kind of thing happens.
Yeah.
I should also mention that this show, you know what, I should have known this wasn't NBC because I was actually following NBC's lineup real hard in 07, which I've talked about before. But remember, I actually get into the reviewing game first with television, funny enough. I was writing for a blog for a guy that was, I've talked about this before, but who was starting a social network that initially was called My Geek Life, turned into Geekvolution, and then I got that name from him when he moved on to other things and let me have the brand, which is how Geekvolution happens in the first place. But I was writing and then editing a blog for him, mostly reviewing stuff. And I start with I'll tell the story again, I'm sure, when we get to any of these pilots, but I was doing the Monday night lineup in 07 for NBC, and it was all sci-fi stuff of very, and what's weird is none of it was space opera, but it was all sci-fi. So you had Heroes, and you had Chuck, and you had Journeyman, which was a real short-lived show. It only got 13 episodes. It was a time travel thing, which I would really like us to talk about at some point if we can find a way to watch it. Mm-hmm. That would be one that would be difficult probably to do a commentary with, because I don't know if anybody could watch it with us. But anyway, Chuck has a little bit in common with this show just because of how quirky it is and how it kind of feels like one of those shows that knows that mostly nerds are watching it.
Yeah.
But Chuck is straight up about nerds and pop culture and stuff before things like Big Bang Theory really took off. Mm-hmm. As hard as that show would anyway, because I think that show was already on at that point, maybe.
Yeah, I always heard of that show, but I never...
Chuck?
Yeah, but I didn't know anything about it.
And that's also weird because the main love interest in the show is named Chuck.
Chuck.
Yeah. And they're both... they both focus real hard on a romance. Okay. I mean, most dramas do, but on these kind of cute, quirky kinds of romance, the unforbidden love kind of thing. Slipmaker also says they both have main characters named Chuck. Yep.
There you go.
All right, Jayson, let's get some background.
Yeah.
Do it up,
Pushing
sir.
Daisies. The show was created by Bryan Fuller.
It sure was.
And it first aired in October of 2007.
What else did Bryan Fuller create, Jayson?
I don't know.
So Bryan Fuller has a long history with television, a much beloved writer by a lot of people, notoriously difficult to work with, particularly with studio heads and big wigs at studios, because he's a real creative guy and he doesn't want his hands tied behind his back. So gotta have respect for that. He did Hannibal, which got canceled after a couple of seasons. Also, should have gone longer. I've seen that pilot. It's spectacular. You're a little too young for it, but that is, of course, based on Silence of the Lambs. Or the series that Silence of the Lambs is in. He also created Star Trek Discovery, and very quickly left that when it got kind of ruined and was not what he was initially trying to put together. He's a giant Star Trek guy. He was the right person to get Star Trek. Here's our Star Trek connection. He was the right person to get Star Trek, and unfortunately, it was kind of, in a lot of ways, stolen from him and massively compromised and turned into something else entirely. He worked on Voyager. He wrote a few episodes.
Okay.
And I think maybe a DS9 or two. I can't remember.
I had
he's
heard
got some
his
Star
name
Trek
around
background.
Star Trek.
Yeah.
I forgot that he was the guy who started Discovery.
Anyway, but I wanted to mention that, so go ahead.
Yeah. So...
Oh, sorry, I'll go ahead and read this comment. Slipmaker says, if Hannibal got the rights to Silence of the Lambs... Yeah, I think that was part of the difficulty with that show, is that the very next season was supposed to be a more serialized version of Silence of the Lambs. The whole season would have been that book. And he says Fuller wanted to work with Lee Pace again and cast him as the show's Buffalo Bill. I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
That is interesting.
Daniverse, Fuller sounds like one of those guys who is hard to work with. Yeah, that's the sense I've always gotten about him. Yeah.
So the idea of the show came from a plot idea for the show Dead Like Me, which was another short-lived show.
That makes a lot of sense.
And
didn't that also have kind of a supernatural component?
Yeah. So it was about like Reapers, and the idea was that there was going to be like a storyline where some of the Reaper's victims were coming back to life, and it was because of a guy who had like coming back to life powers.
Yeah.
And then that transformed into what he wanted to be a spin-off of that show, which turned into Pushing Daisies.
Interesting. Yeah, everything about the premise of the show is counterintuitive and weird, but part of it is also really cliche, particularly for this time, and it's amazing how well it works, because the conceit ends up being really cool with the kind of arbitrary rule set, but I mean, it's a consistent rule set, but like, it becomes kind of a joke in the 2000s that you have all of these procedural shows that are like, it's a cop, but he's back from the dead, or it's a cop that can talk to dead people, or whatever it is. There's always some kind of supernatural, morbid component to it.
Yeah, I feel like, and I mean, this is not. I don't think this show is that morbid. Just because of the aesthetic of it. It
tempers that.
Yeah, but
the storybook quality of it, the oversaturation.
Yeah.
In the color scheme.
Yeah. Which
usually makes you want to barf, but works really well for this.
Yeah, I don't know how it works for this, because
it's the Ghostbusters 2016 thing, but it works.
Yeah. And also just in writing, like, comedy and stuff, it just doesn't, it doesn't seem like the kind of thing that would be about, if you had seen a scene from this, you wouldn't actually think that it was about dead people.
Yeah. But there is some nice dark humor.
Yeah, and there was a lot of Men in Black in this.
Yep.
And we'll see that.
So you were noticing that too?
Yeah, I was. Particularly in just, them in, rooms and with coffins and stuff.
Morgues.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. And you've also got kind of an investigating duo, like with Men in Black, that's, investigating mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not the same thing, because there's not, like, a big underground culture that they're trying to sniff out or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But there is kind of the big plot twist at the end, like you get with Men in Black, where, oh, this is what was going on all along.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Okay.
But not as grand, of course, as the galaxy is on Orion's belt, but or not the galaxy. What is it?
No, it's the Is it just the Earth?
No, it is the galaxy. The galaxy, right? The galaxy is on Orion's belt. Yeah.
I haven't seen that movie in a while. We should.
You know, that's Brandon's favorite movie next to Back to the Future.
Really?
Yeah, he and I have done commentaries on the first two, but I don't think we've ever done three.
Oh.
So maybe you could come in to three, because I know you love that
That's
movie.
my favorite Men in Black movie.
Yeah.
I
We could have a Barry Sonnenfeld-a-thon.
Yeah, and we can watch Tick, and we can watch some of this. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been fun to do this in Tick together.
Yeah.
But we're talking about eventually doing all three of those pilots on one show.
Yeah.
Weren't we? I think we were talking about maybe doing that.
We were, yeah.
I've done that with the Superhero Rewind Discord.
Yeah, I was there.
Oh, you were
Don't
there?
tell me it didn't happen.
Anyway, I'm sorry, what else can you tell us about this show?
So Bryan Fuller wrote the main character, Ned, for Lee Pace. But...
Really?
But his agents didn't want him to do it. But Pace's manager got a hold of the script and gave it to him. And then he went on.
But he declined.
Did the show.
Oh, okay.
Like, he actually went on and did the show.
I guess I didn't even realize that's who that was.
Yeah.
Okay. That's crazy. Oh, that is who that is.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I felt like I didn't know him from really anything else.
Yeah.
Except for this. I guess I didn't even catch that that's who that was. Okay. Anyway. Moving right along.
So the, we talked about this a little bit, but...
See, I have Jayson do the background. I don't look at a lot of stuff before this. And, like a lot of these actors, I don't really know their names that well. So, anyway.
Yeah.
See, we're not just here to teach. We're here to learn.
Yeah. So the production designers and cinematographers said that they worked together to figure out, the look of the show and stuff. And they were looking at, they were looking for, like, more of, a storybook look. But they were also looking to, like, Tim Burton as well and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you can see that. I mean, that's probably partly why they went to Sonnenfeld, because of Addams Family. And that also, of course, has Tim Burton sensibilities. And then that comes full circle when he does Wednesday.
Which I still need to see.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Toys. With the rolling hills.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that movie's terrible, but it's got a really specific, interesting look.
It does.
And again, this very storybooky.
Huh.
Like that.
Yeah.
You could almost see Robin Williams in this show.
I could, actually.
Not as, like, the main guy, but...
Right.
Anyway.
Although, him as the main character would be funny.
Yeah, that would be odd.
Yeah, him as Ned would be really funny. So the show was originally given a 13-episode order. When it was greenlit on May 11th, 2007.
And how many episodes do each season ultimately have?
Well, so on October 23rd, the show was given a 22-episode.
I was gonna say I thought it got the full order,
but only 9 episodes were written before the writer's strike in 2007.
07, yep.
So,
So does it not have ultimately a full order?
No.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember how many episodes
they
were in
made
this.
the whole first season 2 seasons. And so the second season is
it was only
continuation.
9. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it basically has one season.
Right. And so,
but it was made over 2 years. Interesting.
Fuller
okay.
apparently made last-minute changes.
I didn't realize that.
To the 9th episode to make.
I should finally finish this. Then it's not even that long. It's not even 20 episodes.
Right. It's.
Or it's just
it's 22.
It's 22. Yeah. So it's like a full season
it's
order
a full season.
for two. Yeah, for 2 seasons. Okay. Crazy.
But Fuller apparently made last-minute changes to the 9th episode to make it like have a cliffhanger and have it
feel like a season finale.
Have a season finale.
Okay.
And then the rest of the show is pushed to a 13-episode second season. So the pilot aired to 12.83 million when it first aired. Yeah. And
well, remember that numbers in general were going to be bigger back then because you didn't have the onslaught of social media yet with so much independent stuff vying for people's attention. Yeah. So so broadcast was still the big game in town, of course. Yeah. And so numbers in general were going to be bigger, but that's huge.
Yeah, it was the most watched new series of the week, and it was the 14th. It was 14th in overall.
What was so sad about that writer's strike, and it's interesting that we're talking about those kinds of shows this year. Mm-hmm. We should just get the other 07 pilots out of the way, right? Like we should do I wish we'd thought of that. We should have done like a series of just 07 pilots.
Yeah.
But what was so sad about that writer's strike is it felt like TV was kind of firing on all cylinders right then, and a bunch of stuff got compromised. Yeah. 24 had to take a year off. Journeyman didn't make it past that first season. It might not have anyway, but like I thought that was really great. It absolutely decimated Heroes. It's just really sad. But then somehow Chuck got 5 seasons. I talked to Tony Todd at a con because spoiler alert, but his character had already been killed off by then. He's got a recurring character in that show, and it was in the middle of season 2. And I said to Tony Todd, like, that show's not gonna even get renewed, right? And he was like, yeah. He was like, it's done. He got 5 seasons.
Yeah.
I bet he was also shocked. Anyway.
Yeah. So critics mostly liked the pilot. They liked the visual tone of the show and how it's written, but some of them didn't think the show would last very long.
Yeah.
Like they were already like, yeah, this one in particular.
It's just too niche.
Yeah.
Or like the premise is too odd and quirky.
Yeah, one in particular said this will last 5 episodes.
Wow. Which is silly because it's like, okay, but if it got an order. Then it doesn't matter how it does. Maybe they won't all get aired, but they got made.
Right.
Maybe that's what he meant. I don't know.
Yeah.
I could see a critic looking at this show and go, this is a very solid pilot and what's the word I'm looking for? And a really sharp story and very witty, but does it have legs? Like, what do you do with this on a weekly basis?
Yeah.
Because it is one of those things, it feels like a movie premise in some ways, before it feels like an episodic TV premise. Mm-hmm. Despite, or at least just setting and some of the initial situation, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously it starts from a place of, well, we've got a character with this really odd power, and every show he can find some person who died and wake them up long enough for that person to tell him what happened to them. Yeah. So, like, you can do a lot of procedural stories with that, obviously.
Yeah.
But what I would come back for after this pilot is more of the ongoing story stuff. More like are the guy and the girl going to get together?
Right. And
that kind of thing. And I guess you can stall that out for forever, because if he touches her, she dies.
Right.
But I don't know, just on the face of it, it seems like a thing that would be more easy to make a 2-hour film out of.
Yeah. I think
Are you with me?
Yeah.
I hadn't had that thought before, but...
Yeah.
Well, Jayson, why don't you give us a real quick rundown of the premise? Mm-hmm. I meant to do that before background, but I forgot. So just tell us what the show's about, and then we'll go ahead and watch it, and we'll review it for you.
It's about this guy who Ned.
Yes.
Ned, who when he was a kid found out that he had a power where if he touches a dead creature, person or otherwise, they would come back to life. But if they're alive again for more than a minute, another person dies, and also if he touches
randomly in close proximity to them.
Yeah. And if you
it's a completely, again, arbitrary conceit with no science behind it, and I really like that about it. It's liar liar, or it's Groundhog Day. Mm-hmm. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no explanation. It's just here's the rules for how it works.
Yeah. And then if he touches the
Death Note makes more sense than this.
Oh yeah. Again, that they die again forever, and then he can't put them back up.
And if he if he touches them and lets them die again within that first 60 seconds, nobody else dies.
Right.
But even if he touches them after that 60 seconds, they still die.
Yeah.
Which is why he has his childhood dog.
Yeah. And why he can't touch him, and that's an ongoing.
Yeah, that whole thing is kind of sad, but also funny.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of bittersweet humor.
Yeah, I think so.
He never says this the trapped in paradise scenario. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean that's
and then he's got a cop friend.
Yeah, he's got a. Is he a cop?
Is he?
He's like a guy.
Oh no, he's a private investigator, isn't he?
Oh, okay, yeah, but he has.
Is he? Sorry, I watched this in preparation for this a week ago and did not get a chance to rewatch it. So I'll just put that front and center real quick. It's been an odd week, but anyway.
But yeah, pretty much he solves the main thing is he solves crimes.
Yeah, he's a private investigator.
I forgot that. I thought he was just some guy that had a cool idea.
And then they're business partners together.
Yeah.
So they do kind of this somewhat morally ambiguous scheme with this.
Yeah, where they touch dead people and they ask them
how they died. And then the private investigator is able to do his job better.
Yeah.
And it gives them these leads he wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah.
I like the way the show kind of questions the ethics of these characters without making them like sleazebags.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about this as we watch it, but it's amazing that Ned is able to bring Chuck back to life knowing that somebody else is going to die and you don't hate him.
Yeah, that's kind of...
That's the tension the tension in that scene for me is like, how is this guy remotely redeemable after he does this?
Right.
You know, because, like, again, it's romantic, you know, weird morbid way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're wrong. This show is actually really morbid if you think about it for any amount of time, but it doesn't feel that way as you're watching it.
Right.
That's what's amazing about it. Okay, let's go ahead and watch it, shall we? Unless you had anything else you wanted to add before we got into it. We are watching this on Max. And I don't know if there's any other place to look at this, but if you want to watch it with us, get it rigged up to timestamp 0. But of course, this is a podcast, more or less, and we will continue talking through the show, and it should be listenable enough reasonably without looking at it with us. So we'll provide context for anything we're seeing that we're discussing as we go along. So we make these reviews / discussions as the show is on, and we'll talk all the way through for you. Are you ready, Jason?
Yeah.
All right, here we go, man. Timestamp 0, and let me get the clock up on the screen for you. And I just got to change my audio here. Okay, we are ready to go. Cooking with gas. Here we go. Everybody, please press play right now.
I think the only thing that doesn't look good with this is the corticore stuff with the daisies. Like, I was like, when I first saw it, I was just like, oh gosh, this does not look great. And then I got to the actual stuff, and like, it's still oversaturated, but it doesn't
Oh, is that what you
gets
mean by
bad.
doesn't look great?
Yeah.
I thought you meant something to do with the CG, where like it's just too obvious it's not there,
that
or that some of
too.
it's not there, or
Yeah.
yeah, it sets
When
the
we'll see-
tone really nicely right at the start, where you can tell that you're not looking at anything close to reality.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
it's very heightened from the beginning, and again it has a really specific, unique kind of look, but on
Yeah.
a budget.
Right. Well, and we'll see later that the pie hole, it also does not look great. At least like the roof.
I feel like they get away with some dodgy CG with some of that, and like maybe at the time you're not thinking about it as much,
Yeah.
and it doesn't hold up great now. But I just feel like with again just how heightened and stylized all of this is, it's able to get away with some of that.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of feels like you're inside a coloring book or something.
Yeah.
You know, it's very fairy tale-ish, particularly with the narrator. And
Yeah.
one big point I wanted to make is this is one of, if not the most, British shows I've ever seen not made by British people.
Yeah.
But you need a British narrator for this show.
Yeah.
Because there is something, and I know I go to this all the time, there's something a little Douglas Adams about all of this. The Hitchhiker.
Yeah.
You know, at all. He did other stuff in exactly Dirk Gently in exactly this kind of tone, or not exactly, but in a somewhat similar tone, where you've got a quirky, sometimes sarcastic narrator.
Who, if this show were to keep going, we would see who it was. We would see the narrator in real life.
Oh man, that's cool. But they just never got there. So there
yeah,
was going to be an explanation as to who he was and how he knows all of this?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you know what it was supposed to be?
I can't remember.
Was it like Enterprise where it was Ned from the future? No. Okay, good. I'm glad to know that.
Do you... Okay, so that makes no sense.
What's that?
Just the random, like, fact that she just has a blood vessel that just burst. I mean...
Just out of nowhere, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's that kind of random, morbid humor.
Well, and I mean, it's funny.
Where you're intentionally contriving a dramatic moment. And I mean, that kind of thing also can happen, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's able to play these, like really sad, tragic things also for comedy. And again, just setting the tone great right away, where you're like, look, you're watching a show where people are just going to randomly keel over.
Yeah.
And it's going to very much be about death. When I said earlier that this is one of those shows that should be able to win over anybody, if you watch the whole thing, there's a good chance of that losing people as you go along.
Yeah.
Where it just might not be their thing. Slipmaker says Bryan Fuller infamously blew the budget on the first few episodes, but I never really noticed and figured it looked consistent throughout. Interesting. Yeah, what I saw of it seemed pretty consistent, effects-wise as well, like, or production value-wise as well. Like, I don't know that when you get later in the season, you're like, oh, this is a cheaper episode because the pilot cost too much. I mean, what I said on a budget, like, obviously, just... Yeah, I said that because it's television, but like there's a lot going on in this pilot.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like a cheap pilot.
Yeah.
Certainly.
And I think the woman playing Chuck is British.
Is she really?
I think she is.
Which is interesting because the woman playing Chuck in Chuck is British.
Ah, okay.
Again, rolling hills. Even at the cemetery, we gotta be on hills.
Yeah.
I think this show is deeply romantic.
Yeah.
And like it's tragic, but it's also almost like sickeningly romantic. Where like I can't even believe how much I love these two people and want them to be together. It's wonderful at that. And it's also very British in that it's taking random eclectic things and shoving them together and seeing if it can make a puzzle out of them.
Yeah.
It's like we're going to be dealing with bringing people back from the dead and pie.
Yeah.
Okay? I love stuff like that.
Yeah. Also, they have a line in here about when he makes his pies, he touches them to get to be ripe all the time.
Yeah.
But something else dies.
Do we see it happen?
No. So
Oh. And okay, so that's a great question. So by the way, remember, this is Sonnenfeld and he directed the pilot for The Tick.
yeah, this is
And 5 minutes in, we've got roof jumping.
right. Which we have roof jumping on in Men in Black too, right?
That's true, right at the beginning.
Yeah. And
Sonnenfeld loves his roof jumping.
I think this is a lot more like the Men in Black stuff at the beginning.
That's true, but it
than
just immediately
the
reminded
stuff.
me of that, especially because you get the shot from underneath where he jumps over. You only get one token roof jumping shot in The Tick because that's a sitcom.
Right.
And this has sitcom sensibilities in places, but it's much more like a procedural.
Yeah.
Just with the comedy up front.
Yeah. I think the most Sonnenfeld thing in this is, well, first off, that one backing shot when he's the pie maker and it backs off like almost forever. Like that's very Sonnenfeld, where he's like crossing his arms and it's like whoosh.
Yeah.
Like that's very Sonnenfeld. And then also this stuff in the booth is very Tick.
It's very Tick. Yep. And that that's such a good joke. That I'm not gonna repeat on air, but we had a masturbation joke. It was very funny. Anyway, when we initially introduce what is his name, Emerson?
Yes.
Yeah. At first you might think that he's just a patron in this place. You don't realize that he's going to be a main character, and I think the show does what a lot of good pilots do, where it keeps you guessing at who the supporting cast is going to be, and like who we're going to hang on to and who we're going to drop, and and then it's like, oh, he's one of our main guys, because at first it looks like he's just eating pie.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's my favorite character.
Oh, he's definitely mine.
But I love it. But I love everybody in this.
Yeah. What's really funny is they have like they make a picture of him, of the that's really good, of the actor who plays that Leonard guy who gets bitten by a dog.
That's crazy. I mean, we can just say this through the whole pilot, but this scene where they're talking to the guy running the morgue, and you've got the camera shots like just under everybody.
Yeah.
Also very Sonnenfeld. We did that all over The Tick.
And we'll have
There's
that
something
more.
inherently comedic about that shot.
Yeah, I think so. And we'll have that also at like I can't remember what it's called, but there's like a
the funeral home?
like the store
Oh, okay.
where she's at that one woman is at the front and you have the same shot.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm curious going back through the show, which of course we won't do on camera, but I want to watch back through, and maybe we'll do a follow up on this. But I would like to see how much of Sonnenfeld's directing sensibilities continue to affect the whole show when other directors come in, because there's no way he directs every episode, right?
Yeah.
But I wonder if there is like a specific style that he sets up that the show, has to continue, because it's got a particular look and feel it's supposed to have. So even if it's not Sonnenfeld, you might still get some of those underneath shots.
Yeah.
Some of the kind of pushes he does. The slow motion stuff, that's also very
like,
Sonnenfeld.
Yeah, because like it's a pilot. And so I feel, does that happen a lot where they look to, like, the directors later have to, like, you know, look
Absolutely.
to the pilot
Where you have to be really careful about who you have direct your pilot, because that's establishing the look and feel of the whole show.
Yeah.
And I think different shows do it harder than others, but where you don't want a director to come in and like tie their hands behind their back to the point where they have to try to completely mimic what that director does. But where there's rules like you can do this in this on this show and in this world, and you can't do these things. I think you get that with Smallville and, you know, other. I think, was it David Nutter that directed that pilot, or was it somebody else? But no, I think that's true.
Yeah.
For a lot of shows.
And I haven't seen this, or I haven't seen more of it. This was the first time I've seen
this pilot, yeah.
Show. So
to your point earlier, and I don't know why I didn't think of this, but it was a terrific observation that, okay, if you have a dead strawberry,
yeah,
and you touch it and bring it back to life,
someone could die.
Let's say, is it at that point not just about proximity, but also about relative size or sentience, or because I guess it just has to be alive. It doesn't even have to be sentient. So like you could bring plants back to life, you could bring trees back to life. So if there's a dead tree, which is huge, does a person have to die, or is it another tree?
Well, you saw.
Does it have to be the same kind of thing? Does it have to be the same species? Like, did they show another strawberry die?
I don't know. I don't.
Because you said they didn't show us that, and I wasn't really looking for it. Yeah.
Well, I think.
Because there's no way he would risk another person dying over it.
But
so there's got to be a relative, like similar kind of species or.
Yeah.
Or item or something, right?
But you did have like the dog. He had the dog come alive, and then like the squirrel fell down.
Yeah.
Which is not the same size as a dog.
Okay, so then it wouldn't be about size, it would probably be about sentience. So like maybe they have to have similar sized brains or lack thereof.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah, I don't know. This guy who plays Emerson has a brilliant deadpan sensibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the best deadpan acting that I've seen.
Yeah, he's probably my favorite character. At least my favorite, like, actor.
You see this a lot with premieres from this period where you don't just have a cold open and then a title or an intro. You get all the way through maybe the first, like, couple of acts before you even get the title.
I actually didn't know that they did that.
Because we're already 13 minutes in. And we just now got the Pushing Daisies title. And this, of course, like so many things at this point now, he's not going to have a full-fledged opening title sequence. Senior Sticks, $2 super chat, thank you. He says, bringing things back easy, humans not so much. I guess, but still somebody's got to die.
Right.
This also, in the soundtrack, sounds a lot like the Tig.
Yeah. And this montage of that guy, of the funeral director, taking stuff off, that's very Sonnefeld.
Could you imagine this as a book series?
Oh, yeah.
Like, easily, right?
Yeah.
So this is where we should completely lose sympathy for this protagonist. And I think the show does such a good job of playing this with kid gloves. And make us buy that he would do this, make us not just sympathize with him, but like feel just like he does about it. Like, you don't want her to die any more than he does. And I think it's also really important that we've established the background with her. Can you talk about that for a second? Because we didn't really set that up. But for folks that haven't seen this,
so basically, when what was that guy's name? When the main character Ned, when he was a kid, he had like a crush that was Chuck, and
he blames himself for her mother or father's death?
Dad.
Yeah.
For her father's death.
Because he's the person who dies that's in close proximity when he saves his own mother.
Yeah. But...
And they're just now talking about this.
Yeah, but then he finds her dead, and he tries to get her alive, and then he accidentally...
He tries to get her alive. And,
well, he does get her.
And then we have a mystery through the show of who killed her. And so, retroactively, even though she's supposed to be dead, she gets to help figure out her own murder.
Yeah.
Which is inherently fun, but not a thing that you can do every episode, because not every person that he brings back to life can he keep alive.
Yeah.
He has to let most of them go back to death. There's also an inherent tension each time he wakes somebody up in, can he get the information? Like, it's a really creative form of interrogation. Can he get all the information he needs from them? And can he, like, talk about it with them in a way where they'll want to discuss it with him and give him that information within just 60 seconds. Mm-hmm. Like, you got this wonderful ticking time bomb narratively where somebody's going to die if he doesn't get what he needs.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's going to let them go, back to death, even if he doesn't get what he needs, except for her.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, and sometimes this will happen in the show, where it's like, we didn't get everything, but we had to kill him again anyway.
Yeah. And I think this is like, well, I can't really tell how much he actually uses his power. Like, this might be the first time in a while that...
No, we're told that he and Emerson do this on something of a regular basis.
Yeah. But I think this is the first time that someone else has died.
Yes. No, I think that's true. Because he always makes sure in... Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But it's not...
Since, like...
But they do regularly interrogate dead people still, right?
Yeah.
Like, I like the idea that we're... It kind of goes without saying, we'll answer this early, that this avoids pilotitis like the plague just wonderfully well, where you have a very clear occasion for story to get us into the regular series here with his bringing Chuck back, and all of the connections to his childhood and stuff. Like, there's a really good reason that we're here now, but we're not trying to contrive a way... It's not an origin story. We're not trying to contrive a way for him to simultaneously start using this power when he hasn't been, and also, here's Chuck now.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not the superhero origin thing. He's not just now getting his power. He's not just now deciding to use his power. They've been doing this for a while, and we're dropped in it now because of Chuck. Really good occasion for story.
Yeah, I actually really like that.
Just excellent. Yeah, isn't it nuts how well the oversaturation works?
Yeah, it actually works really well. Although it just doesn't work well with daisies. It just doesn't look good. I don't know.
It's in the title.
I also hate the color yellow, to be fair. So.
Oh, okay. And you know why it's Pushing Daisies, right?
Yeah, it's because, like, the term.
That's the figure of speech that you use when somebody dies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they're underground,
Oh, yeah.
But I like that we're physically putting daisies all over the show.
Yeah.
That's good. I didn't know about this. Alex409 says Lee Pace is also really good in the Apple TV Plus Foundation. I've heard great things about that. Mm. That's a sci-fi series very loosely based on Isaac Asimov's book series Foundation, which I started at one point, but I've never read that whole first book. But I haven't watched that show.
He literally lit a truck on fire. I don't know how he did that, so...
It's important, of course, that we have to hate the funeral director who dies.
Yeah.
Like, you need somebody awful there, and, like, it doesn't make it okay, but it makes it, as the viewer, kind of more okay. And the fact that we're couching all of this in comedic context helps a lot. Like, if you played this whole thing totally straight and there was no humor to it, he's kind of awful.
Yeah, he is.
You know? So some of it is just the comedic approach, I think. And that they have such wonderful chemistry together.
They do.
And she's just really likable.
Yeah.
And I love how well she takes everything in stride. There's a lot of that in the show, where everybody gets very nonchalant about death and about his ability, and that's part of where some of the comedy comes from. But then the places where Emerson is kind of speaking for the audience, where he puts everything in perspective again about how actually serious this is, is very funny, but also grounds it a little bit. So the funniest line, I think, in the whole pilot is, and I'm quoting, but I'll do the slight swear when he says, "Bitch, please, I was in proximity." I died laughing.
Yeah, that was really funny.
It's so good.
I think both both of the main two actors.
Yeah.
That was a terrible sentence. But they both feel like they could be in Tick.
Yeah.
Like, they just have the same, quality.
You gotta wonder how much of it is just the way Sonnenfeld directs people.
Yeah.
And I know we keep talking about that, but it's really interesting just how close all the comedic sensibilities are.
Yeah.
To the point where they almost feel like they could be in the same world.
Yeah.
And that's also to say that Sonnenfeld and Edlund fit like a glove.
Yeah.
Like, Edlund would have very easily been able to write scripts for this show and fit right in it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you know that, but he wrote a lot for TV.
Oh.
Ben Edlund wrote episodes of Gotham. He was one of the main producers on Angel, and he wrote the puppet episode.
Oh, did he?
He came up with Bad Horse from Dr. Horrible.
Really?
Yeah, he wanted to do something called Bad Horse forever through Angel, and that's why it wound up in Dr. Horrible, because Whedon finally used it.
Oh, okay. That's
which shouldn't surprise you because of Man-Eating Cow. Dalton Williams, one of my favorite shows of all time. The last episode was so rushed, but so great, even with the cancellation. Hope you watch both seasons. Great use of Paul Rubens. I didn't know he was in this. Interesting. Oh. Thanks for that information. And yeah, so what we're doing with the pilot show is if we really like a show and we can find the time to do it, we want to binge through at least some, if not all of it. And this is so short, we probably would do all of it.
Yeah. And
then come back on another installment of this show, and instead of talk about the pilot, just talk about some more of the show.
Yeah.
And this is only our 7th episode of this series, so we haven't done that yet, but we're talking about going back and doing it for maybe the first season of Stranger Things.
Yeah. Because that's only 8 episodes.
Again, right. Wonderfully tragic, this shot.
Yeah.
All these, I don't know, I just find this romance really moving. All of these shots where they really wish they could touch each other, but they can't. It's wonderfully bittersweet.
Yeah.
And just really creative visual storytelling where it looks like they're touching, but they're not. So there's always something in the way. Something in the way. Oh no, busted.
So I think there are all these shots I can't really tell. Is Ned actually like super tall?
I think he is, yeah.
Yeah, because he's like at least taller than the pie lady, like her.
The tight writing with this is amazing. I love that line when they meet in the hallway, and she says to Chuck, "Does he touch you?"
Yeah.
Because she's not getting why he doesn't give his dog any attention. And I love that we also deal with the psychology of affection and physical, like tactile affection, and how that's important to people, and what happens if you rescind it. But like there's nothing he can do about it, or his dog will die. Very often, this kind of thing in a show irritates me, where you have to keep something, a secret from people for too long. You stretch that forever. This show does a really good job of avoiding that, because just baked into the premise, you have to do it this way. But like, she has to know like what happened to her, and we're not keeping that a secret from her, so that's good. Now, she doesn't know about her parent, who he is responsible for killing, and I wonder how long it'll take before he learns that.
Yeah.
So there is that question.
Yeah.
But I don't find myself like irritated or impatient too much about the easy. There it is.
There it is.
About the like ongoing mysteries and secrets that we might have.
Yeah.
That's handled pretty well so far, the way they're set up. And of course, he's going to be keeping it from the sisters, who by the end of the pilot, you think one of them has to know, and then we do that really clever shot about the bad vision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that she doesn't know, and that's great. But again, you don't know how long you want to stretch that.
Right. Do we get anything, because he
Yeah.
Lawrence has a line, and I can't remember, or I haven't watched the rest of the show. Do we actually get into any of his backstory at all? At least in the first season?
I think so. Yeah, we keep it pretty mysterious at the front.
Mm-hmm.
I think all the focus is just where it should be, though, in the pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think? Like it is his story, and we're not trying to explain too much about the rest of our supporting cast.
Yeah.
So, like The Tick, it is an ensemble show, but the focus is very much on still a main central protagonist, at least in the pilot.
Yeah.
So it's one of those shows where, like, yes, Ned is the main guy, but you can tell everybody's going to get episodes, everybody's going to get fleshed out a lot more.
Right.
Senior Sticks, is she immortal now as long as he and her are separated? I think so, because the dog has lived much longer than it should have, I think.
Right. Right, it has.
Like, he brought the dog back when he was, like, 12. Yeah. Right? I mean, wasn't he, like, kind of a little kid when he brought the dog back to life? I'm trying to remember. From the opening? Isn't it, like, a kid actor?
Yeah.
When he brings the dog back?
Yeah, it is.
I'm trying to figure out how long the dog has been alive.
Yeah, it's when he was a kid. It was when he first figured out his powers. It was when it was...
So, like, what I'm saying is, I think Senior Six is right. You wouldn't continue aging, I don't think.
Right.
I think you stay the same age you are. So, yeah, it's like a vampire, basically. I think.
Yeah, I didn't actually think about that.
And then there's other questions, like, you seem to operate basically the same way, but would you have to eat? Like, would you die if you starved yourself?
Mm-hmm.
It's a question.
Yeah, I wonder if they actually get into that at all.
I'm sure they do. The show's too smart not to.
Yeah. So I have a question.
Yeah.
Why are the bags why are the faces right side up on the bags? Why are they upside down?
Because it's creepy? I don't know. What do you think of the sisters?
They're fine.
Yeah.
They've got some funny moments.
They initially seem like kind of the weakest characters of the bunch, and kind of the most typical and obvious archetypes. And then by the end of the show, by the end of the pilot, it starts to win me over where I can see some potential in them.
Mm-hmm.
I think I also like the show a lot just because I love pie.
See, and I don't.
It does make me very hungry, though. This is so great.
But
I wonder if this will be an ongoing thing where he has to keep hugging her, where they have these like tender moments, and then he needs his friend to give her the physical affection that he can. But they do a nice job not getting like weird and creepy with it, where it's just, you know, give her a hug. It's romantic to them, but it feels platonic enough with Emerson. Like it's very smart the way he plays that, where he's like, I'm just doing a favor for a friend.
Yeah.
Not, you know, I'm like getting physical with somebody else's girlfriend. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think we do need as much background as we get about the sisters to get why they're such shut-ins.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Oh my.
Everything that's really messed up or gross or wrong is handled, like we said earlier, in such an amusing way. It feels like the lightest stuff.
Yeah.
Like, she loses an eye, and that's one of those moments where you're going, this feels like a fairy tale. But then think about it. The darkest crap happens in fairy tales.
Fair. True.
Fair retails.
Fair retails, yeah.
Right? Senior Six says such abilities are never great. Yes, this is, of course, one of those superpowers that is as much of a curse.
Yeah.
As it is a power. And I keep saying bittersweet, but it is. There's all these places where he's glad that he has this because he gets to keep, you know, his dog around. He gets to keep this girl that he likes around. And I'm sure we'll play throughout the series with the question of fate versus free will, and like what is meant to happen. You know, like, should he let everyone die and stay dead because that's what Providence intended, or should he use his power because he has it somehow, and that's also weirdly part of nature? You know, like these are interesting questions to ask.
Yeah.
Her eye patch is insane.
Yeah, it is. I feel like
airplanes fall out of the sky every day.
I feel like the only thing that the only things I laugh at, or not the only things, but most of the time I laugh at this pilot is just that one character.
Just Emerson?
Just Emerson.
So yeah, now we're figuring out the whole mystery and why she died. And it's a little odd and over the top, but it works for this material.
Yeah.
Like, it is kind of weird that this character was murdered.
Also, she has a lot of, like, pets. Or maybe not a lot, but like she takes care of a lot of animals.
There is a whole animal motif with this show.
Right, because she's got the monkey thing as well, and then she's got a parrot and she got bees.
And then again, Ned brought his dog back to life.
Yeah.
There's a lot of animals. I don't know what to read into that yet, but
yeah.
Did you call the big reveal with the monkey at the end when they break it?
I actually didn't.
With the two monkeys?
I actually didn't. I mean, when I saw it, it made sense.
There's some nice potential symbolism there, where the two of them who are in love and can never touch bust up these monkeys to get what they need at the end. And there's that question of just how tragic this is, where like right now they're filling in each other's blanks and really helping each other move forward, but is this a forbidden love? And that's a nice irony there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That he upsets this woman by touching her, and he's always really careful about who he touches.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, that's a relative of the girl that he brought back and can't touch, or it will kill her.
Yeah.
It's a really good dramatic conceit, right?
Yeah.
Like all the situations in an episodic TV show that you could put them in. Like, you know, there's gotta, and then it's just hilarious how insanely over the top this is.
Yeah,
we get this big action moment. But yeah, I really like this peripheral vision reveal.
Yeah.
It kind of works.
I think it works.
That's a pretty neat revelation.
That's pretty funny.
And I just love how Chuck finds the humor in everything.
Yeah.
The way this actress, who is that? Anna Friel. The way she plays this is just perfect. It's exactly right. Where like the reason she's so likable is because she's got nothing to lose now. Like, she's supposed to be dead, and so now it's very easy for her to live every day like it's her last, because it should be. And so she just finds the humor in everything now, and she treats everything like a mulligan, and it's great.
Yeah.
And it's infectious. Like, you wish you could have her outlook and look at things the way she does.
Yeah.
And then that helps you really get why Ned is so into her.
And I mean, especially like with that one scene where he touches her, where he touches her and she doesn't like it.
The aunt.
And that's what I kind of like about this show, is just they have like really dark moments, but they always break it up with like a joke.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel too undercutting either.
Right.
Like, it's always of the same tone.
Yeah.
It's not like, here's this really rough, dark moment. Like, it never takes itself too seriously, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Or artificially gets really serious so that it can then do the kind of modern Marvel thing and be like, I got you. You thought we were, doing something, like, really dramatic, but we actually just wanted to make this cheap, easy joke. It's never cheap about it.
Right.
Senior Sticks, he's asking all these questions about how exactly the rules of this work, and it's great. What if he dies? Do they then, like, the people he touches, it brings back, do they die? Or do they become fully alive, the dog and her?
Oh. Also, if he touches himself while he's dead. Like, if his hand
if
is
he
on...
died and you took his hand and put it on his leg,
right.
would he come back? And then you touch him again and he died? Probably not. It probably doesn't work unless his mind is functioning, I would think. But who knows? Because again, the whole thing is a silly conceit anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, now we find out that the monkeys are gold.
Yes. What he needs is instructions like the Death Note. Like bringing people back from the dead guy, how it works.
Yeah. They retreated from their retreat.
Yep. A lot of nice play on words with this script. And you know me, I'm a huge fan of that kind of writing.
Yeah.
And that's also why this appeals to me so much. Like, this show is TMBG lyrics. The show. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there's an episode built all around Birdhouse in Your Soul. Like, they even know that about themselves. Like, there's so much of the Movie Giant sensibilities. I would be shocked if there wasn't a Douglas Adams reference somewhere.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So they say that after collecting the $50,000 reward, the ants, get out of their retreat thingy.
Is that what they say?
And then after, they say that they've gone into a 3-way split. So, did they both collect the $50,000 reward and they had two $50,000 rewards? Or did...
I wouldn't think so. I would think they would have to split it. How many ways would that have to split it? 4?
5.
5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's weird is they say that the ants collected the $50,000 reward. And then they say that those three got
it's
a
just so
split.
touching, Jayson.
It is, yeah.
Which is ironic because they can't.
You're right.
It's nigh perfect.
Yeah.
I think, like, as a, you know, we're exploring the pilot as an art form, and like, for what pilots need to accomplish to make you want to keep watching, but also be a piece that stands on its own. It's what the textbook for that should be built around.
Yeah.
You know, like if I taught a class on this, and it would be a very odd specific class, but if I taught a class on how to make the pilot, this is maybe the first pilot I show.
Yeah.
And we've had a couple of others that are nearly in that place, but I think it is probably technically, like at a technical level, the best pilot we've looked at.
I think so too, yeah.
Personally. House is decent at it, but I think it has relatively more pilotitis than this. And you know, we did say this about Stranger Things. Stranger Things is maybe on par with this.
Yeah.
But it's also a different sort of first episode, in that it's the first chapter of something, and this is more like a traditional pilot.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how actual, you know, what's the opposite of episodic?
Serialized.
Serialized. I don't know how serialized this actually ends up being, but...
Well, you know, it's got to be a mix of both, right? That, like, it is a procedural, but it's going to have ongoing threads. But, like, Stranger Things is just, you know, a movie with chapters.
Yeah. It's
that model.
An 8-hour movie.
Let's go ahead and answer our pilot questions.
Okay, let's do it.
Shall we? I've already shown my hand on this. So let me ask you this actually real quick. So, what so far is your favorite pilot that we've covered?
I think it probably still is Stranger Things.
Did that even beat out Addams Family?
I think at the time it didn't, but thinking about it more, probably.
It's kind of where you're at now.
Yeah.
That is probably the one then that we should do our first revisit on.
I think it should be, yeah.
Okay. This is easily my favorite of the pilots we've done so far, but it scratches so many of my sensibilities.
Yeah.
But even if this wasn't my bag, it's just such a technical, like I don't know, tour de force in the writing side.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's run them down like we always do. Are you ready? Does the pilot tell a good story, or is it simply a litany of character introductions?
No, I think it tells a good story. And I think it's a good...
It's really tight.
Yeah, and I think it's a good episode just on its own. Like,
it's one of those things where if you never saw any more of this, you would very much get the gist of the show and what the characters are all about.
Yeah.
You know, so you can kind of watch this like a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, like, obviously, it wants you to keep going.
Yeah.
But if you really liked this, it might stick with you, and you might even years from now, like, forget that it was a pilot and not a film. Mm-hmm. Like, oh yeah, that movie I watched that one time about, like, pie and death. Oh, it was the first episode of a TV show. Who is the character, I think I know the answer for you, that would most make you want to watch more of this?
For me, it would be the cop guy.
Is it Emerson?
Yeah, it's Emerson.
Something we didn't really talk about is this show has the triad thing.
Yeah.
It has the TOS triad.
It does.
Like, right? Mm-hmm. Ned, Emerson, and Chuck are your Kirk, Spock, and McCoy.
Yeah.
And so that makes it difficult for me to answer this question because I love them together as a trio. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, the romance is brilliant.
Yeah.
And those two have insane chemistry. So, like, that's the main thing that would keep me coming back.
Yeah.
And Emerson, so I don't know. I'm gonna cop out and say the three of them, which is not fair. But there's not the one character for me. It's the dynamic, right? But it is important to note that Emerson is a comic relief character in a show that is already funny.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of interesting?
Yeah, I think it is.
Well, like, Ned actually does some funny things, but he is the straight man in his show.
Yeah.
If the show is in a genre you're not usually drawn to, does it make you more interested in that genre? I guess I don't really have that so much with this. Like, I don't even know what you'd call the genre, besides just, dramedy. Like, I don't watch a ton of those, but it is kind of a genre thing. I mean, I guess it's fantasy before it's anything, but it doesn't make me go, I want to go watch a lot more 45-minute comedies, I guess.
Right. I'm a maybe.
Yeah, but I'm very particular about my comedy, so it's kind of more just I already love, like, for me the genre is Sonnenfeld.
Yeah.
And like I already love that guy.
Yeah.
Not that everything he does is gold or anything, but so that one I would say is kind of non-applicable here for me anyway. But where are you at though? Like when you watch shows like this, does it make you go, I really want to watch more comedies? Because I feel like you're more of a comedy guy than me as far as TV go. Like, you love sitcoms.
Yeah, I do, and
I'm excited to do more sitcoms.
Well, and I mean, this just kind of makes me want to watch sitcoms that I've already seen some of, right?
Yeah.
This doesn't really make me want to watch more of, stuff that I haven't actually seen. It just makes me want to watch more comedies. It makes me want to go back to Fresh Prince or go back to Friends.
I'm excited to show you Shock.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if we want to do in too close to proximity to this. Because if we watched that show, then another show like it might die.
Right.
Getting close proximity. Does it... Bitch, I was in... Does it feel like the show already has an identity, or does it need to find its footing?
No, it has an identity.
That's where it is exactly on par with Stranger Things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, both of those meticulously have carved out their tone.
Yeah.
Brilliant at that.
Mm-hmm. Although, I haven't watched any more of either of those shows, but I have heard that Stranger Things loses it instead of gains it. So.
By its second season.
Yeah.
But the whole season matches.
Yeah.
If you were a network exec, do you greenlight the series?
I think so.
I would be a little worried about what the audience is for it.
Yeah.
Certainly. Again, it's very niche, but if you could get everybody to watch to the end, they might get one over on this relationship.
Yeah.
And do you want to keep watching the show?
Yes.
Yep. Well, let's do Stranger Things, and then after a few more pilots after that, maybe we'll binge through this and talk about it.
Okay.
That's what we should do. Let's maybe, I don't know, I mean, we're really busy this time of year, but let's maybe in a couple weeks try to sit down and just binge through that first season of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And we'll do that on this show. But I'm gonna let Jayson announce our next show.
Can you announce it?
You want me to do it?
Yeah.
Why? Do you not remember what it is?
Well, I remember what it is. I just think it's funnier if you say it.
Okay, fair enough. So, Jayson has been wanting to do an anime.
Yeah.
For a while, and we elected to go ahead and do Pushing Daisies because actually one of the patrons suggested this, and I totally forgot to pull that up so that I could give that person credit. And I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but sorry, what?
Oh, did they?
But I forgot to do that. Yeah, give me 1 second and I'll pull that up. But we put out a message a few weeks ago and said, hey, what would you like us to tackle on the pilot show? And we'll just pick some things from this. And this was one of those. And it was suggested by... Slipmaker, who's in the comments today.
Cool.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks Slipmaker. appreciate the suggestion. Not an official request. I just put my feelers out to the patrons, and I'll do that periodically for things like this. So if you want to become a patron and help us choose things, which we give you lots of different ways to do that. I put out a message just yesterday and say, I want to review comics sometime in the next couple weeks. What would you guys like to see? And I'm going to pick something from that list. So just at the $2 tier, you'll get those messages. And there's lots of different ways to request things. You can do an official request at the $15 tier. And sometimes that'll be on the pilot show if it's a pilot. I know we got one from Tom that you and I will probably do on this show instead of request. But anyway, patreon.com/geekvolution, quick plug for that. And anyway, so we're going to do an anime next time. And we decided to go back and do something classic and something that neither of us have ever seen.
Yeah.
We will probably watch the first couple of episodes, even though the second one won't technically be part of the pilot, but just because it's so short, and we decided not to do a versus show with this and really just focus on this show that we've never seen before, we're gonna go back and watch something that I remember having friends in high school that were obsessed with this show.
Really?
Yeah, we're gonna do Sailor Moon. Yes, we are. We're going to do the first 2 episodes of Sailor Moon on the pilot show next time. Yeah. Which seems like something perfect for both of our sensibilities.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, maybe mine.
Because we're both teenage girls in the 90s.
Fair.
No,
but I'm more of an anime guy.
You are more of an anime guy.
Well, I'm more of a manga guy.
Also, yeah, that's true. But just, I don't know, Japanese fiction.
Japanese fiction, yeah.
And you've always gravitated more toward female protagonists.
Yeah.
Or at least you had that when you were younger. I don't know if you're that way now.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It depends on the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember you sort of had this reputation when you were like 8 or 10 of like, oh, Jayson loves stories specifically about girls.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I'm not sure why.
Daniver says that's a choice. Oh yeah, I'm telling you, we're doing every kind of thing. It's a thing I've never seen. Yeah. Jayson landed on it. He was like, what if we did this? I was like, sure.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do. Oh, he's right. It is a choice. It's a choice. Alex409, I'd stick for Chuck. I don't know what that means. Oh, I see. Stick around for that character. I thought he meant the TV show. Maybe next year we'll do that.
Maybe, yeah.
Because I do want to tackle that show. Like I said, there's a part of me that wants to act Sailor Moon and just do like 4 2007 shows in a row. But I'm not going to do that because I'm curious to see if anybody shows up for it.
Yeah, I think that would be fine.
We're going to do every kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then we should also go back to the 60s sometime soon.
The 60s.
That's one of the reasons we started this. We were excited to do some 60s TV.
The problem is when I think 60s, I only think sitcoms. It takes me maybe like 5 minutes to think of a 60s show that's not a sitcom, not Star Trek, not Batman.
Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible. That is a good pilot. Have you seen it?
No.
It's really good.
You've seen that?
Mm-hmm. That's a really good.
Jayson is a TV guy, I'm telling you. Well, everybody, thanks a lot for watching. Anything else you want to add to this? Brilliant pilot.
It's a really good pilot. It's
just wonderful. Just nigh perfect.
Yeah.
Everybody watch it. And we'll try to do a follow-up at some point and talk more about the show. Well,
now I'm gonna have the theme song start in my head. I'm gonna have the da na na na.
It's got a great score. Well, Jayson, did you have a good time?
Yeah, I did.
We'll see everybody next week for another edition of the podcast, and it'll be about Sailor Moon. Sometimes it's fun to pick stuff just see what background you find.
Yeah.
You know, when you get your research fingers on it.
Yeah.
All right, folks, appreciate you. I'll be back tonight for the Captain Logan show for anybody that's watching this on the day, live or just after, here on the YouTube channel. And in the meantime, I was Captain Logan, and this was
It was Jayson.
Jayson. See you later, folks.